Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Poor Decisions presented by Sip Kentucky. As always, I'm Steven, and today here I'm joined by Chris. Say hey, Chris.
Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
Always a pleasure. So today I'm drinking some Barton 1792 Full Proof to go with our day because we're talking about Bardstown, and this distillery is located in Bardstown. What about you?
What a wonderful choice. I've actually chosen a craft distiller out in Bardstown called Preservation. I'll be sipping on this very old St. Nick, and it's a great, almost dessert style bourbon, aged in a maple cask. So, highly recommend. We'll talk about this maybe a little bit later.
I'm very familiar with their work, and it's always a treat when you get to pull out some preservation. So I mentioned today we're going to talk about Bardstown. There's so many cool places around the state that get highlighted a lot just for their concentration of great bourbon distilleries as well as just great bourbon stories. And Bardstown really kind of jumps off the page for me when I think about Kentucky and some of those like really cool small towns with excellent bourbon and great stories. So like I was saying, people talk about bourbon country and they talk about Bardstown because they bill themselves as the bourbon capital of the world. And Bardstown is where Kentucky history, like the frontier spirit, because Kentucky used to be the Wild West. Everything west of the Appalachian Mountains used to be the Wild West. It's really where all that comes together with bourbon, which is America's native spirit. So you get these awesome small town vibes. It still feels like rural and rustic, but really homey. But you can tell like the people there have gone through some stuff and they've got a story to tell about it.
Awesome. But
So
it's not that far
Bardstown
from
was
Louisville,
founded.
right? I mean, how far from
It's
Louisville?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's
an
what?
hour's drive. I mean, pretty much
Okay.
anywhere in Louisville, you're an hour drive from Bardstown.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's one of the nice things about it, right? Because you've got all that great experience in Louisville, and then an hour away for your day two on the Bourbon Trail. Bardstown, great choice.
Yeah, they do. Being a smaller town, it does have some limitations with like transportation and things. You're not gonna generally be flying in and out of Bardstown, especially commercially. You're usually gonna be flying into either Louisville or Lexington with that. Most common is Louisville. And kind of Louisville, Lexington, Bardstown almost make like a perfect triangle where it's about an hour between each as you go around. So it's really easy to fly into Louisville or Lexington, have great places to stay there, and then venture out to Bardstown. Or if you want to take your journey on the road, you can kind of go all the way around and make your own little triangle. Um,
Awesome. Yeah. So
but but I remember the first time I went to Bardstown, I was actually with you, and we happened to make our way to a few distilleries and had a great time. And it just feels right if we're going to talk about Bardstown that we should have this call together and tell everyone about our experiences there.
cheers. Absolutely. I remember pulling up to James Beam and feeling like, wow, this is like the campus of bourbon. If I could have gone back to college, I might have changed my mind and my major and been there because it's truly the size of a college campus. Super impressive. And I think this is sort of the gateway into Bardstown, right? We're coming out of Louisville, and just before Bardstown, you're welcomed by that huge, beautiful distillery.
Yeah, the drive to Bardstown from Louisville is no joke either. Like you mentioned, you pass that James Beam campus. You also go by Bernheim Forest, which is an incredible place for hiking, just like hanging out in nature. You've also got the Four Roses Distillery and bottling facility. So it's just really pretty area with really good bourbon the whole way through to Bardstown.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, um, we all know Kentucky used to be part of Virginia. It was a territory before it was a state.
We do? I
And
did not know that. I wouldn't make that assumption at all.
everybody should know
It was a part.
well, you
Okay.
know it now.
So there were two Revolutionary Wars here, I guess, or Civil Wars. So they
Yeah.
seceded from Virginia. Is that how that worked?
No, we became a state later on, but Bardstown existed as a city. It was founded before Kentucky was a state. It was when Kentucky was still a territory of Virginia. So it goes all the way back to 1780. So it's an old town as far as American
Wow.
cities and towns go.
You
So
definitely feel that
with
driving in there. I mean, feel like you're driving back in history. So one of the cool, things that makes it just a charming, awesome little town.
yeah, and there that drive we've talked about, like we talked about the forest, we talked about we've talked a little bit about fields and farms around there. But all of that kind of combines with the limestone in the area to give us this perfect clean water, which is why so many distilleries congregated around Bardstown because they needed that good high quality water in order to make good high quality whiskey and bourbon. So kind of that perfect area all around Bardstown really is why we have such great bourbon in the area.
Yeah, and probably why
So
99% of bourbon that's distilled is distilled in Kentucky, a large portion of that being in Bardstown.
it definitely helps. Um, right now we're in Kentucky. We're feeling a pretty cold winter, compared to usual. I think the real feel today was like 6 degrees or 7 degrees. Um, but I know you were visiting not too long ago, and it was up in the 80s. That was a month ago.
Uh-huh.
So it changes a lot. And the other part that helps with this bourbon situation in Bardstown and all over Kentucky is those drastic changes in temperature, that hot, making the alcohol expand, pushing the alcohol into the barrel, and the cold when everything contracts and it squeezes the alcohol back out of the barrel. So we're going to be seeing that a lot. I just saw a forecast for Christmas Day here. It's supposed to be up in the 60s again. So we're talking about a 50-degree swing in a
Uh,
matter of days. And so that's what like puts our whiskey into hyperdrive with in terms of pulling flavor out of the barrels. And it's just as true in Bardstown as it is up here in Louisville. So those are some of the things that make Bardstown special. I think really the people in Bardstown make it super special. When you drive into town and you go down that main street, doesn't it look like it's something out of like a Norman Rockwell painting or something, or out of a postcard?
100%. I mean, I can picture horse-drawn wagons going up and down the main street, and you could just tell everything was built, kind of on a main walkway where there are rocking chairs that are sitting out, and you can imagine the parades that probably went through that town. And there's kind of a circular a roundabout that goes through, I guess, what is that, the courthouse or some kind of the Capitol? I mean,
Yeah,
it
I don't know if
literally
it still
feels
is the
like,
courthouse, but it was at one point for sure.
right. I mean, I feel like Disney's tried to recreate this in some of their theme parks, as the all American city.
Yeah, All American City pushing out some of the best bourbon as well. So what's not to love when you're there?
No, absolutely. And great restaurants, great, just shopping, great bottle shops. If you're a bottle hunter, wow. I mean, that's just a playground for you because they have all kinds of great finds out there.
Yeah, they've got that Evergreen Liquors, and then the Neat Bourbon Bar just opened a second location out in Bardstown. So great bottle hunting, aside from what you can get at the distilleries, which is usually the best price you can ever find for a bottle.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, talking about that, all the distilleries, we should probably just run down a list of all the distilleries in
Let's do it.
Bardstown
Yeah,
and
we're going
around.
on the trail. Where do we start? And yeah, where do we end? This sounds awesome.
All right. So, in Bardstown proper, you've got Heaven Hill, Willet, Bardstown Bourbon Company, Lux Row, Preservation, Chicken Cock, and then you go just outside of town. You've
And these are
got
all what,
James
like
Beam
within like
Whiskey.
5-10 minutes of each other. I
Oh,
mean,
if
these are
that, 10 minutes. If there's traffic, which is a small town, there's not a lot of traffic.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah, all the bourbon that's produced in that small radius is incredible.
I didn't even include Barton 1792 because I'm that's what I'm drinking today.
Yeah.
They're right in Bardstown proper as well. They don't do tours there, so maybe that's why I didn't
Right.
put them on the list. But then you go like a 20-minute radius around it. You've got Jim Beam, Four Roses Bottling Facility, Cox's Creek Distilling, Log Still, Limestone Branch, Maker's Mark. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a better selection anywhere in the world in a 20-minute radius outside of Bardstown.
I mean, you could spend a week just in Bardstown, I think, and still maybe not have visited and tried everything there is to do. I mean, just the
Yeah,
density of that stuff and the size of that town is just incredible, right? There's got to be more barrels of bourbon, maybe more barrels of bourbon in that small town than there are people in the whole state.
probably. Probably. I mean, you're right with getting it in a week, and you might have to come back and do it a week for every season because it's great in the winter. Like distilleries put out all their lights and displays and stuff. During the fall is super nice. There's lots of bourbon festivals and special releases. It's a little cooler. The summer is always fun at the distilleries, and in springtime when you get that energy with like horse racing and derby in the air, like it's such a great time to be out there.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I just, every time I go, I've got to go visit Bardstown and everyone is just so welcoming there too. It's just, that Southern hospitality is a thing. It's a thing and it's alive and well in Bardstown for sure.
Yeah. Well, I always love on this show, like talking about the best experiences you can get at these places. And I know from talking to you that your favorite experience is at Preservation. I know it's what you're drinking today. So I want to
Yeah.
hear about it. Like, what is it that you going about Preservation?
Gosh, I mean, I've the bigger name distilleries are they're must sees. I mean, they just do just such a tremendous job of showing you all they have to offer, and the grandioseness of it is incredible. Maker's Mark is literally like stepping into a Disney World attraction. I mean, it's just that well done. Same thing with Jim Beam and these larger ones. But I've got a special place in my heart for the craft distilleries, and one of the jewels on the Bourbon Trail, right in Bardstown, it's a place called Preservation, and I'll sort of paint the picture for you. You drive down this country road, you approach this driveway, you pull in, you feel like you're pulling into a ranch in Texas, maybe. There are
Okay.
Texas longhorns roaming around in the pastures all around you. You pull in, they have this ranch style entrance when you walk in that has the preservation sign on it. I mean, really, they could have had those swinging western doors that you could just pop right open, and it would go right along with the theme of walking in there. But I believe
Hey,
the floors are
you
all
started
wooden.
today saying it was the frontier out here. So,
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and it truly is. And they've done a great job of just creating that feel. I mean, you walk in, and it's just a very when you get in there, it's a very simple, welcoming, small vibe, very different from some of the larger places you get. But right away, they greet you. They have a little craft cocktail bar off to the side where they'll make you the specialties of the day. And they have all their offerings right there. And if you're there, you've got to do what's called their VIP Ancient Reserve Tour. And this is their specialty tour. They do regular tours and tastings, and those do not disappoint. I mean, if you don't have an hour and a half to spend, I certainly recommend dropping it and doing that. But when you go to their ancient VIP reserve, you're going to do kind of a deep dive into their whole process. You'll get to meet one of their guides who, may even be the master distiller when you're there. It just depends. They kind of do everything while they're there. And they walk you through their small, intimate little distillery. You get to see the whole process up and close. If you're real lucky, towards the end, they'll let you try to pound a bung into a bunghole of a barrel. Okay, so, and that might be a whole other episode, bung and bungholes. But this is, I think,
I don't know if this podcast is allowed to be talking about pound and bung holes. We're trying to keep it family friendly.
This is a bourbon technical term, okay? This is a scientific term when it comes to bourbon, but they really let you get hands on, and it feels like this is how they must have done it 250 years ago. I mean, you really feel the history and just how little technology that's in there that's going on to these barrels. And that is just such a cool experience. And then afterwards, you get to sip and taste their bourbon. And Preservation may be a small craft distillery, but they've got some of the most distinguished, award-winning bourbons on the market. Um, uh, they were their founder is a woman, Marcy
Oh,
uh, Pellet. Yeah, oh yeah.
very
And
familiar with
I
her
don't think
now.
there's a whole lot of women distillery owners out there, Stephen. I don't know. Do you know of any?
No,
That,
it's a small handful, and so that means they're doing something right if they got
right.
started and they've stuck around.
It's a male dominated industry, right? And I mean, she came in. Now, she did come in from California. She had a little bit of background in the wine industry, but she had a super strong connection with some Japanese investors that were very interested in bourbon. So that's what kind of pulled her senses up, and she got to learn about bourbon very quickly. And she actually bought a bunch of bourbon barrels during one of the bourbon declines. So there was a lot of barrels sitting around that she was able to get a great price on. And she just sat on those barrels until this whole bourbon boom started to come. And then when she did that, she had some nicely aged bourbon that was just getting to the point to where it was really marketable, and she was able to charge a premium for that, and she started selling that stuff pretty quick. That's how good it was, this award-winning bourbon. And then as her inventory was
Now,
getting low, that's yeah, go ahead.
that was back in the 80s, right? So I mean, this isn't a brand new brand. She's been messing with bourbon for a long time. I mean, the 80s puts her older than Angel's
Oh
Envy,
yeah.
Bullet, like some of these other really big names, but they're making
Yes.
awesome juice for a good while now.
100%. And then in 2015, as her inventory was running low, she says, "You know what? We got to keep this thing going. We got a great recipe, and we want to keep this stuff going." And so that's when she opened up that distillery, 2015. And they just started, and basically they just have a pot still, and their batches are 1 to 3 barrels. So these are small batches, and if you love it, you got to get it while it's there because it's not going to last long. So that they're continually coming up with new varieties as they go, and they've just really put themselves on the map with some iconic brands. Very Old Saint Nick, what I'm drinking is one of them. You know, um, when you go there, I think this bottle there might run you about 140. I was in a bar, I believe it was in Las Vegas, and we saw they had some Very Old Saint Nick, and they were selling that for $85 a pour. So just to give you an idea that the value of this
So
thing.
I mean,
And as far
it's
as
some
bourbon
stuff
goes,
people
that's not
respect the
necessarily
name.
absolutely. You respect the name, and when you're there, that's why you load up on the bottles for sure. They also have another one called Rare Perfection. It's another one of their award-winning brands that they have that you may have heard of or seen. And then they also bottle a lot under their own just named Preservation. And during
Yeah.
this ancient VIP experience that they give, at the very end, they do the tasting of all these phenomenal bourbons. They place out a nice spread for you too, charcuterie board with all kinds of meats, and cheeses, fruits, and you really just feel like a king when you go into this place. And that would be, you ask me on this segment what I want to talk about. That's what I rose my hand and said, yeah, this one needs to be talked about because I don't know. This may fly under the radar of a lot of people because it's not a household name, but it's a must do when you're going out there and you're visiting these. You got to hit the big ones, but do not let these jewels fly underneath the radar. So that's my kind of critique, and they have just been so awesome to work with. They uh, never ever ever disappoint, and I think a lot of the folks that we brought in and out of Preservation have said tremendous things. So that is my tidbit for folks coming to Bardstown. Must see Preservation.
I love it. And I think word might be getting out because last time I was there, they were doing a little construction. I think they're getting ready to expand their tasting room because they're having so many people come now. Um, so word might really be getting out about them. And I think rightfully so. I think like everything you said is true. Like the experience that you have there is unrivaled. The bourbon you get there, incredible.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what's an average batch for Jim Beam? I mean, it could be 50,000 barrels, and this is 1 to 3 barrels. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, when they say small batch, they mean small batch. I mean, that's just incredible. And they can really take the time that it takes on each one of those barrels to make sure that they're getting, their absolute best out of it.
And really,
But
too,
I've
they
heard
take more
it's not a
storage
good
too.
idea to try to ride the Longhorns. I did get some feedback from one person that said, of all the things that, are,
You,
that you should do there, that's not one of them.
you think they had one too many to drink? Was it a poor decision?
I sure hope so, because those Longhorns are no joke. I mean, I think the horns on those things alone are 6 feet. So
Oh,
impressive
they're
animals.
huge. Sometimes
Yes,
they come running right up to the fence when you pull up there sometimes too.
that's probably why it
So,
looked friendly. It was like, hey, well, come on, this is like a puppy dog.
yeah. No, that is a great place and such a true assessment of like everything they are. Great people,
Yeah,
with a great experience top to bottom. And it's so unique too, like you were saying, where it feels like you're going into like a Texas ranch or something, or just kind of like any like rural ranch, even though
yeah.
you're maybe a 7 minute drive out of the middle of Bardstown, like you're just around the corner from everything else that's happening in town, and it feels completely different than every other distillery that you'll see in the state.
100%. 100. Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I mean,
I love that this experience includes food because you know me, I love to eat. And if we're drinking a lot, it helps me to get through the whole day. So I love that this experience includes all that food for you too.
100%, right? So I mean, it's great, and it's a great first stop of the day, right? Because it helps you get that base going. But with that said, after you've already had your palate tickled at this point with some great food, Bardstown also has some great places when you are done and you are hungry. And we do always recommend staying, fully fed on these things because that bourbon will sneak up on you.
Yeah. Also, another great thing about preservation is a place to start the day is they have that coffee bar at their tasting bar too. So if you need that little pick me up, if you got started before your bourbon really kicks in, that's a great option as well. But when we're talking about food in Bardstown, if you're going someplace else, I know there's a lot of places you like to eat. Where are some of the places you're going to eat in Bardstown?
Well, it depends what my mission is. If my mission is to get food in my belly so I can head on to the next one, there's a great stop downtown Bardstown. It's a place called Marcella's. And they're just kind of a quick in and out of place, but they've got great food. The people that are there are awesome. And you can get in and get, a hearty meal. So you're nice and ready to go on to your next distilleries if you're not wanting to make an event of your lunch. So I
Yeah,
highly recommend.
Marcella's is where quick, great food. That's your go-to.
Yeah, you've been there, Stephen, right? So I mean, what do you
I've been
think?
there, but I don't think I've eaten there as much as you. I think you are like going to town when you go to Bardstown. I'm more focused on the bourbon
Well,
when I
I
go.
don't have time for some of these foodie places, although I love them. Don't get me wrong, but when I'm there, I'm there for business. I'm ready to go check some places out. So this allows me to
And
get in and out.
I think that's the approach most people would want is they want a place where I can get good food, a good portion from a local place and get in and out quick so I can get more time at the distilleries. So I think
Absolutely.
that's a great recommendation.
Right. Yeah. And for those folks that do want to just kind of revel in the food a little bit, there are some foodie spots for sure. If you're down in downtown Bardstown, I would say there's good. Southern food, I wouldn't call it upscale food, but we do have Talbot's Tavern. It's got some good food.
Yeah.
Stick to your ribs. Mammy's is there as well. But once again, my go to there would be Marcella's if I'm in downtown Bardstown. If I want more of an event, I would go to the distilleries, and some of these distilleries have some off the charts great food, and it's a true experience as well. Um,
Okay, so I got a
one,
list of some of these distilleries with
yeah.
restaurants. So I saw there's Five Brothers Restaurant at Heaven Hill, the Bar at Willett, Bardstown Bourbon Company has a restaurant, the Kitchen at James B. Beam, Star Hill Provisions, and Maker's Mark. So when I name those off, pick one that's like the most memorable for you.
Will it? Will it
Okay.
without a question? So, I mean, will it? I mean, this was a James Beard award. They made it to the semifinals in the awards for the James Beard. I mean, and they
Okay, that's a
deserve
big
to win
deal.
it. They deserve to win. So their food is no joke. I mean, this is foodie style food. It's phenomenal. You must plan ahead. I can't tell you this. You will not get into that restaurant if you just show up and you want to try to get a reservation. Typically, we recommend,
Yeah, it's pretty
uh,
small, not
you
a
know,
lot of tables in there.
not a lot of tables and there's a lot of demand. So if you want to go there, you do have to plan ahead. Uh,
All right, guys. Sorry for the interruption. Sorry if it sounds a little bit different. We had some technical issues on the recording with Chris, so I'm just here to cover all the stuff that got missed with those technical difficulties. So, Chris was just telling us about Willet and their restaurant, the importance of kind of planning early and making a reservation. That is easily the most important reservation if you're planning in Bardstown. Other than that, there's a bunch of distilleries that have restaurants. So Heaven Hill has the Five Brothers restaurant. It's great food. Bardstown Bourbon Company has a restaurant as well. Awesome food, great views. The kitchen table at James B. Beam, great food, great views. And then Maker's Mark has Star Hill Provisions. So there's a lot of distilleries with really awesome restaurants that you can get to right on board. Some of them do get really busy, some of them are smaller, some of them are easier to get into. So the big thing with any of those, if you are planning a trip to Bardstown, is just plan ahead, make a reservation if you can once you know your date. And you can kind of plan your trips if you're going to that distillery, or plan your tours kind of around those restaurant reservations. Outside of that, I know we mentioned Marcella's in Bardstown. There's Mammy's Kitchen. Bardstown Bourbon Company is really good. A lot of people love to visit Old Talbot Tavern because it is a very old historic place. So there's lots of great food options all around and inside of Bardstown that can get the job done. And it's all just kind of what level of experience you're looking for. We mentioned all those distillery restaurants. A lot of times, those are going to have the best views, like just views you can't beat. Like the bar at Willett's up on the second story, and Willett's up on a hill, so you have just a great view of that whole area. Um, Five Brothers at Heaven Hill is up on the second floor, and it looks out over all their rick houses. Bardstown Bourbon Company has this massive glass wall that looks out towards all their rick houses, and then on the back wall, they have this big like moss. It's their logo. It says Bardstown Bourbon Company, but it's built out of live moss, and this thing's probably 30 yards long and 10 yards tall, so it's huge. Um, Really pretty and cool. The kitchen table at Jim Beam's up on a hill. The restaurant at Maker's Mark, Star Hill, used to be at the top of the hill. Well, the temporary one was up on the top of the hill. Now it's back down at the bottom of the hill, and it's, if you've never been out to Maker's Mark, it's an incredibly beautiful distillery. It's very isolated compared to a bunch of these others we're talking about, but the views are incredible. So aside from getting a great meal at potentially your favorite distillery, you're still going to get incredible views and an awesome experience at all of these places. And then another thing we had started talking about is kind of where to stay. Because you end up with this triangle of like Louisville at the top, And then out to the east, you've got Frankfurt and Lexington. And then to the south, you've got Bardstown. They're all about an hour away, maybe a little bit more, depending on exactly which one you're going to, but about an hour drive. Bardstown, as we've been talking about this whole episode, is an incredible place with lots of great distilleries, lots of great restaurants, great places to stay as well. Um, there's the Trail Hotel. There's a number of just any hotel brand you can think of, like a major hotel. They'll be out there, but it's still a small town, and that has its positive and negatives. One of the big positives, in my opinion, is there's great RV parks in and around Bardstown because it is a little bit more of a rural setting and it's a little bit more of a small town. They have a lot more land, and there's great places to stay if you're in an RV. One of the downsides, or like depending on how you look at it, one of the upsides is because it's a small town, things tend to kind of slow down once it gets dark. There's not a lot of Ubers and things like that out there. So you can, and restaurants and bars tend to close a little bit earlier than what you might expect if you're coming from LA or New York or Dallas or Chicago, like some other major city. Things are going to start shutting down earlier pretty much once it gets dark. Things start slowing down. So big benefit if you're looking for some peace, quiet, rest, relaxation, like getting away from it all. That's it for you. On the other hand, if you are looking for more of a nightlife, there's not a With that though, there is a much bigger nightlife when you're looking in like Lexington or Louisville. So Louisville's our largest city. It's only about an hour away, so it does become really popular for people looking for more of a nightlife, rather than staying at the Trail Hotel and Airbnb out in Bardstown, one of those other hotels, the historic Talbot Inn. Like, there's a bunch of great places to stay out there, but if you're looking for more of the nightlife, it's more common for people to stay in Louisville and then use a tour company or drive themselves out to Bardstown, because it's a great day trip when you go like an hour out, spend the day out in all those distilleries, and then come an hour back. It just makes it a really nice, easy day. You still get all the views and everything, but you'll still have all the amenities and things of a mid-sized city like Louisville. So those are a few of the things we talked about with Chris as we were disconnected a little bit or had our technical issues. It's really on my side with everything, but those are kind of our highlights for Bardstown. Highly recommend visiting Bardstown if you're ever in the state of Kentucky. If you're searching for some good bourbon, you should definitely go out there. We mentioned there's big heritage brand distilleries that everyone's familiar with. There's great small craft distilleries out there. There's awesome restaurants. There's beautiful places to stay. Views abound. There's if you're in an RV, I would definitely recommend staying out in that direction. There's just lots of great things and awesome like small town charm all the way through. So that's kind of our highlights on Bardstown. If you have any questions, you can always hit us up. But until then, keep sipping.